Welcome and good afternoon. My name is Commish Orr, and welcome back to something I like to call Stories from the Maelstrom, a recap of the day's games for this past week of real time. We start in Boston as the Detroit Rockets face off against the Boston Splinters. This is the second of a four-game series between these two teams, and notable because these are the top two teams in the American League. Coming into this game, Boston was just a game and a half behind Detroit in the American League. And there was a lot of run scoring early on. Pedro Martinez getting the start for Boston against Frank Tanana for Detroit. And both pitchers allowing some runs early on. Detroit was able to score two in the first inning on back-to-back doubles from Dick Allen and Adrian Beltre against Pedro Martinez. However, Boston responded with 3 runs of their own in the bottom of the first, thanks to back-to-back homers by Frank Thomas and Mickey Mantle. Team traded another run in the second, so we left the second inning with Boston up 4-3, and that score would be good until the 7th inning. Actually, Pedro Martinez actually came out of the game after 6 innings, 6 strong innings of work, other than that first couple of innings where he allowed some hits, but after that he was cruising. But in the 7th, Dennis Eckersley came in to pitch for Boston. He's struggled all season. Actually, his ERA is not great at all, and immediately in the 7th, he allowed a 2-run homer to Bill Freehan to allow Detroit to retake the lead 5-4. He would allow another run in the 8th on a sac fly but from Dick Allen, and Detroit would take this one 6-4 to extend their lead in the American League to 2.5 games. Eckersley gets his 3rd loss, his 2nd blown save. His ERA is over 10, so that's not good. Tom Henke picked up the save for the Detroit Rockets. That is his 11th save of the season. And Detroit takes this one, as I said, 6-4. They are 26-18. Boston 23-20. But still 2 more games left in this series, so there's still plenty of time for Boston to catch up. Just 10 games left to play for Detroit, 11 for Boston. So we're getting down to the final couple series here as we wind down towards the end of the season. And it looks like these two teams are going to be battling out up until the last day, unless Detroit really shuts the door here in these next 2 games. We head over to Los Angeles as the Chicago Docs, worst team in the entire Baseball Maelstrom, take on the Los Angeles Dynamos. LA, who at one time was within a couple of games of St. Louis for first place in the National League, has been on a terrible losing streak of late. And that losing streak would continue in this one, in one of the longest games of the season so far. Chicago Docs had Oral Hershiser on the mound facing off against Tom Glavine for the LA Dynamos, and they kind of go back and back in the early innings, but Chicago would have a 4-3 tie going into the bottom of the 8th when Roy Oswalt allowed an RBI single to Barry Larkin to tie the game there in the 8th inning. So we headed to extra innings, and each team had its chance to score. Chicago in the top of the 10th actually loaded the bases here, but Goose Gossage was able to get out of that jam without any more damage done, or any damage done actually, and kept them scoreless there. The team's kind of using up their relievers here, including their closers, as the game just kept continuing until the 12th inning when Trevor Hoffman came in for LA and walked Buster Posey and then allowed a 2-run homer to Jeff Kent to put Chicago up 6-4. Jim Jeffries for the Chicago Docs would pitch his 3rd scoreless inning there in the 12th to get the win for Chicago and give LA another loss. LA now drops to 24-20. They've lost now 2 games to Chicago, the worst team in the league. And actually they've lost, let's see here, They're now 5.5 games behind St. Louis with 10 to play. There's not much time left for them to make it up. LA's lost 3 straight and 6 of their last 7. That comes after they won 8 straight to get close to the St. Louis Wizards there in the National League. So kind of heartbreaking here for LA fans as they see their playoff hopes kind of dwindling here. They're really going to need St. Louis to stumble here heading into these final 10 games of the season or so. Heading over to Oakland as the New York Swats face off against the Oakland Jacks. While neither of these teams is too close to first place in the American League, there isn't a whole lot of distance between the 4 teams in the American League, so anything could still happen. And in this one, we have yet another extra inning game. Both teams scoring a couple runs in the 6th. Hal Newhouser pitching for the Swats, facing off against Bob Feller for the Oakland Jacks. Actually, Feller had a no-hitter going into that 6th inning, but then gave up back-to-back singles to Wade Boggs and Lou Boudreau, walked Babe Ruth to get the bases loaded. Ken Griffey Jr. Grounded out to score the first run of the game, and then Jimmy Fox followed with another RBI single before Feller was able to get out of the inning. Overall, though, Feller went 9 innings, allowing just 4 hits and those 2 runs. So just a spectacular game from him. Unfortunately, Hal Newhouser was able to keep Oakland in check himself, scattering those 9 hits over his 9 innings of work, and he also allowed just 2 earned runs there in the 6th inning on a couple of Joe Gordon grounded out to score one of those runs, and then Joe DiMaggio followed with an RBI single. So very similar to the run scoring of the New York Swats at that point. Turning things over to the relievers, Bullet Rogan came in the 10th, but allowed a lead-off double to Harry Heilman. And let's see here. And then a walk to Wade Boggs allowed a single to Lou Boudreau to load the bases, and then Babe Ruth hit an RBI single to put them ahead. New York was ahead 3-2. Bullet Rogan actually able to get out of the inning with 3 shallow fly balls to end that inning. But then in the bottom of the 10th, Satchel Paige came in for the Swats to close things down. Robin Yount gave them some hope by getting a leadoff single, but Tris Speaker followed, grounding into a double play. Now Hank Greenberg followed with a double. It was his 5th hit of the game. He went 5 for 5 with 3 doubles in this game. But Joe Gordon popped out to end the game there in the 10th for Oakland. So New York takes this one 3-2. They improved to 19-25. Oakland falls to 19-24. Again, both of these teams probably far enough out that neither one can catch either Detroit or Boston. But, again, it'd be interesting to see. Anything could happen in these final 10 games of the season. So Bob Feller has his great start erased pretty much. And New York takes advantage. Hal Newhouser improving to 7-2, actually, with this win. Finally, we head to Houston as the St. Louis Wizards face off against the Houston Hoots. St. Louis has a chance to really shut the door here on LA coming into this game. They were already up 5.5 games. They could have extended it to 6 with just 10 games left to play in the season. But Randy Johnson was on fire in this one. He's had his share of struggles in the season. But in his last start, he went 8 innings and struck out 13. And this one, he goes all 9 innings and strikes out 13, allowing just 3 hits and only walking 1. In fact, he had that shutout with 2 outs in the 9th before Stan Musial hit a solo homer to break up the shutout. He'd only allowed 2 hits up until that point, 2 singles. So very, very strong performance from him. Carl Hubble, on the mound for St. Louis, also had a great game. He did allow a couple of runs early. In fact, Archie Vaughn led off the first inning with a solo homer, just his second of the season, to get Houston on the board first. Hank Aaron hit an RBI double later in the inning to give them their only 2 runs of the game. And then Hubble was pretty much lights out after that. He allowed just 6 hits, 3 of those in the first inning, and struck out 5. It was his first loss. He was 7-0 coming into this game, so now he's 7-1. Still a great showing from Hubble. But Houston takes this one. They improved to 20-24. St. Louis falls at 29-15. They still have their 5-game lead over LA with just 10 games left to play. So still in the driver's seat here unless they have an epic meltdown. So heading over there to take a look at the standings. You can see Boston is 2.5 games behind Detroit here in the American League. Last place New York is 7 games back. In the National League, this actually hasn't been updated with St. Louis's loss. With that loss, LA will just be 5 games back in the National League. Chicago is too far back to catch them, and even Houston at this point, they're going to be far enough back that they're not going to be able to catch them either. They're going to be 9 games back, I believe, with 10 left to play. So, I mean, barring something miraculous happening, they're out of it too. As always, if you want to follow the action, you can head over to baseballmaelstrom.com to find all of the write-ups on each game, the stats, and take a look at the teams and players and standings and all of that fun stuff. But if you enjoyed following the league, be sure to click the like button on the video. Consider subscribing so you don't miss anything else. Check out some of my other videos. I do have a series where I'm going through MLB play-by-play data from 2022, taking a look at that. So if that's something that interests you, check that out. But heading now to the final 10 games of the season, it's going to be very interesting to see how this all pans out. Then we'll be heading to the World Series. So thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate all the support. And until next time, have a great evening.